All right, we're working on a 2005 Honda Pilot. We've got an oil leak down here, the end of the camshafts. I think these are called camshaft cover seals.
This is what the front one looks like removed. Later we'll get to the rear one as well.
So we dropped by the dealer earlier today, and we'll put part number of these O-rings. These are the O-rings that they gave us based on our VIN. We'll put the part number down at the bottom on the video in the description. And then we've got an EGR gasket because we're gonna have to take off the EGR valve right here. So we're gonna take those two bolts out there. Anyway, to get started, you gotta take your airbox off, which is pretty straightforward. It's got 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're 8 millimeters. When you're taking it off, one thing to keep in mind is this part right here will get caught underneath this battery cable, so you pop that off. The only other things you need to take off to get this off is a 10 millimeter bolt, loosen that clamp up, and then there is a clamp right on here, and you slide this hose right off of there. Be careful not to break this rubber hose below, but that's all you really need to take off and get this out of the way. All right, so the next thing we're gonna go ahead and begin tackling is taking this EGR valve off. We've got access to the front side, so to get this connector off, you just push this little button here and slide the connector off and away. I'm probably just gonna go ahead and take another couple connectors off here just to get them out of my way and clear up my spot where I'm working. So again, another push button right there on the bottom that you push down and pull it away. And then here's another one. Just get these out of the way, and then they're not in my way. Okay. And for those down there, looks like we're gonna need a 12 millimeter. All right, first things first, since this is an exhaust part, got the right size socket, but you definitely want to use a penetrating oil. I really like Mouse Milk. It's a fantastic product, so put that inside of one of these little oilers. Makes it real easy. Of course, you can just take the bottle and dump some penetrating oil all over it and make a mess, but this stuff is not cheap, but it works really well, so I'd rather not waste any. So I'm just going around it slowly, trying to work this all the way around. All right. It's kind of tricky. Your socket wants to really ride along the side of this EGR valve because it bulges out. So you just want to go real slow as you're taking that off. You don't want to round it off. This one I think sticks out a little more. Should probably be using a breaker bar, but you know what I forgot to do. I'm gonna put it back together a little bit here. First things first, I really need to clean up some of this oil. So I got some brake parts cleaner here. I'm gonna go in here and just spray around this. See if I can get it to where you can see it while I'm working, and I can work. Just want to get some of this gunk off of here. All right, so we sprayed a little brake parts cleaner in here. A few minutes have passed, so this is already kind of dried up. I'm going to spray it a little bit more, and then we're going to come back in here with the compressed air and clean the rest of it off. Again, here I'm not trying to get it perfect by any means, but I'm just trying to loosen up some of the dirt and knock as much off as possible, especially right around the seam here where the piece comes off. You can kind of see right in the gap here where the end of this is. That's where I'm taking. one thing to keep in mind when you're doing this, working near the battery, make sure your positive terminal's covered up like mine is here. If I drop that on there, that would short out. Not good. All right, and we're gonna remove the EGR valve. So, good news is, I think we got the correct gasket earlier. You never know when you go to the parts store. That sure looks like it though, doesn't it? All right, so now we can really see what we're here for. This circular cap here is what's coming off. So just these 2 bolts. It's the only reason we had to remove the EGR valve is to get to these 2 bolts. So we don't want anything falling down inside of here. Having to spend all day fishing it out. So just take a little paper towel. Don't stuff it in there real hard. Just stuff it in there a little bit so that if anything falls, it naturally just wants to bounce off of it and fall out. Now we don't have to worry anything about anything falling in there. All right, that's pretty clean around there. So I'm gonna go ahead and find the right size socket. I'm wondering if it's another 12. Look at that, it is another 12. You might have to knock off some of the filth just to get your socket on. Mine was nasty. Let's see if it does it again on the bottom. Yeah, all right. All right, so I can already see a problem here. It's gonna be really difficult to get this 10mm in here. I might be able to get a breaker bar in there, but I'm guessing I'm gonna have to get a wrench in there. This one doesn't look like we're gonna have any problem with anything in the way. Ooh, did you see that? Now, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pull it back off. Here's the problem we could get into. If we break this free like this and start coming out, it's gotta go somewhere. So it's gonna go out and it's gonna bump right into the stud. Well, what we're gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna go ahead and use this to break it free, just to break it free. Then I'm gonna tighten it back up and I'm gonna use a wrench to get it apart. Okay, so now the bolt's spinning real easy. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it back up. And try and get it out of here. I don't know how I got it down here, honestly. There we go. Oh, what I did to get it in here is just work it around the stud. And I worked it back off. I don't even know if I can duplicate it, honestly. I think I got lucky. Oh, see, I just kind of wiggled it down onto it. And then to get it off, I had to just keep wiggling. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, it comes off. Not easily, but it does. All right, let's go ahead and break the other one free. Here we are. All right. Really, I think they're gonna come out by hand from here. They're not in there very tight. It's a machine thread, so once you get it broken free, you can take that puppy out the rest of the way all by hand. All right. All right, now we've got the cover loose. Both bolts are loose on it. Now we're just gonna have to try and get a flat blade or something underneath it to pry it off. I can reach back here and I can feel the groove. On the front here, I really can't feel a groove to try and get a flat blade underneath and pry, unfortunately. All right, so this one's really giving me fits and there's nowhere really to grab it right now. So I'm gonna try and turn it Try hammering down on it with a piece of brass, just to even get it moving. Ooh, did you see it move? See it moving, Juju? Okay, now there's a shadow over here. Should be able to come in here, pry it up. I'm catching it with the very corner of it, so I'm being careful not to mar off the corner here. Man, it's tight. May end up just coming back here and twisting it the other way now. I've got a little bit of a gap now in between it right now. I can shove that in there, but that's about it. So it's very little. It's not budging anymore. So what I'm going to do is turn it the other way and then try prying it down here as well. Maybe I can slowly rock it off. I'm using a piece of brass. Brass is an extremely soft metal, much softer than aluminum, so it's not going to mar up your aluminum. One thing to do when you're in here, try not to do what I was just doing and squeezing against wiring. This wire is 17 years old. Giving it one little squeeze is enough to possibly damage it completely and have to replace it. We're not in here trying to make more work for ourselves, right? Oh boy. It's showing that it's been in there for that long because it's fighting me every step of the way. I'm going to go ahead and spin it back. I've got a little bit of space worked in here. It's going to work its way back, so I'm just going to keep rocking it back and forth until it starts to loosen up on me. All I'm thinking right now is I hope the other one is as hard. Because this one's easy to get to, but this one is fighting me every step of the way. Okay. Look at that. I don't know how much oil is going to pop out. I would imagine maybe a little. Whatever's up here will probably come out. But we already had an oily mess as it was, so oh well. It won't be the end of the world. All right, so that's it. A probably 10-cent O-ring for the dealer that they charge you. I think they charged me $20 for 2 O-rings, which is absolutely ridiculous. But what are you gonna do? I wasn't gonna pay $500–600 for somebody to do what I'm just doing right now. So we're gonna take this and clean it up, get the old O-ring out, put a new O-ring in it. Man, look at how flat spotted that O-ring is. There's no curl to it at all. It is just 100% flat all the way across. Good grief. All right, I'm gonna set a little bit of some rags down here to soak up this mess. Again, I just don't want to get anything inside of the oil system here. This is the end of your camshaft there. All right, so we've got the cover off, kind of wiped it down a little bit with a rag, paper towel, whatever you want to use. Clean it all up so we're not going to get too oily now. All right. So what we need to do is replace the O-ring. So I'm going to take a little flat blade screwdriver, or I might need a pick with as bad as this one is. This one may come off in pieces. It's so brittle. Again, I'm using steel tools now, so I'm trying not to mar up the surface where the O-ring would go. That would cause a leak later on down the road. Ooh, boy. So an O-ring this old is like, when we get it off of here, I'll bet it'll be really brittle, like really, almost really solid. I'm just gonna work my flat blade in here. See it, how it just broke, like it's plastic? It's that brittle. Try not to break it in multiple pieces here yet, just to show you how brittle and how flat spotted it has become. Very flat. And it has no pliability anymore. I mean, the new one, obviously, this thing, if I start bending it much more, it's just gonna break. I'm really working it there. So that's our problem. All right, this looks like it's about the same size O-ring, so it looks like they gave me the correct part. Sure hope the dealer would. All right, so to install this, we're going to take a little bit of engine oil. In fact, I think what we're going to go do before we do that, coat this O-ring up with engine oil, is take this over to the parts washer and clean some of this gunk out. It's pretty filthy. So, all right, so we got this over in the parts washer. I'm going to toss it down here and let it soak for a second. Kick the parts washer on. This is just a cheap little Harbor Freight one. They had a different setup on it, and I didn't really like it. So I've actually, if you look down the side of the parts washer here, put the camera down. I just put a little drain cock on it, and then there's a filter, remote oil filter adapter to it. That keeps my fluid pretty clean. It's cleaned quite a bit of stuff. If you point down in there, you can see my part most of all the way down there. A well used, like my parts washer, you wouldn't be able to see it. So, little tip of the day. And I don't have to get crazy here. I'm not rebuilding a sports car or anything here. All right, so that's pretty cleaned up. Nothing's gonna fall off of it. We're gonna go ahead and shut this all down here. This is something called mineral spirits, so you want to wear gloves with it when you're working around this stuff. Some nasty stuff. So she's nice and clean now. So I got it dried off a little bit. I'm gonna take a little bit of oil and put it on here. All right, so we got it all cleaned up. Take a little oil. Get our oil, coat our O-ring good. And we're gonna take the O-ring, slowly slide it on there. Now I'm just taking it, kind of rocking it around to make sure that I didn't twist the O-ring. There's nothing in the groove that would prevent it from sealing. Now, if we look over the top of it, you can see a clear bulge of the O-ring. The last one, it was flat. So that's what was causing it not to seal up. This one's not flat. See that? All right. Now we're gonna go ahead, pull this out, soaking up some of the excess oil. So I'm gonna go ahead and wipe in here just to give this new mating or gasket, new O-ring gasket, a clean surface to mate against. I'm gonna put this in. We want to try and line up the holes as best as we can. It's not the end of the world. As we saw with the brass, we can take the brass and rock it around. They have a pretty tight fit on this. So getting it started, I just want to make sure it started fairly evenly before you go push it all the way in. And I've got it nowhere near aligned anymore. I said, not that it matters, but it'd be nice to have it close, right? Oh man, the bottom of it does not want to come up. So I'm just going to use a socket. Evenly drive it in. When it's drove in, it looks like we're going to have to move it a little bit with the brass. It's about right where it was. Look at that. All right, one bolt in. That one is a little snug. And you see it's catching right on the very top. I don't know if you can zoom in with the video and see, but it's catching right there. Right there. Goodness. I'm wondering if I should have put a mark on this when I took it off, because I'm wondering if this is 180 out, so this little ear needs to be over here and this ear needs to be over here, because it's really not lining up and I don't want to force it on. I hate to take it back out. It sure looks like that's where it's going. Before we take it out, let's take a look at a mirror. And we can see that it's off by quite a bit. And I haven't taken that one out to see. Ah, see? I think we've learned something for the other side. So now this one's freed up because when I had hammered it against here, it was actually bumping against it right there. But I guarantee you the other one won't go on there. It's nowhere near lined up now. See how far off it is? It's actually raised up. The bolt's trying to go in at an angle like that. So we're gonna take this back out and spin this puppy around. That's something to keep in mind when you're taking it apart. We'll put it in the description. But as you're taking it apart, you should probably mark it with a Sharpie, or even just score it, even with a flat blade, and give it a tap with a normal flat blade, not one of these little tiny ones. Or use an engraver. Just put a little mark on there. I just gotta be careful not to damage the O-ring now that I'm popping it back out. Because they'll give me another O-ring if I buy one. If I damage it, it's all me. Okay. Now, we're going to take this, turn it like that, and I'm just going to make sure it didn't bump into the O-ring. In fact, my thumb right there. Run my finger along it. Everything looks good. All right, now we're going to drive this back on. Now I'm just trying to check it to make sure it's going in square. And if it's not, make some adjustments. Okay. All right, let's give this another shot, huh? I'm starting. We're gonna go ahead and put the bolts in. They're not trying to go in on its own. So I got them started and I'm having to rock them in there. There's no gap between it, so it's fully seated. So I'm not worried about that. Oh, look at that. It must have just been how it was positioned in there. For whatever reason, this one's just giving me fits. All right, snug the bolt up. Now, they had it pretty tight. That O-ring is really doing all the work, so you really only need to get these bolts snugged up. That's pretty good. Next, we need to put the EGR valve back on. I'm going to clean up this oil mess real quick, and then we're going to put that on. All right, compressed air. Gonna get noisy for a second. Let's clean up this EGR valve with the razor blade. So I'm just trying to loosen work off any loose bits of gasket that are on here still, because it could cause the new gasket not to form a proper seal. All right, that's pretty cleaned up. Now we're gonna go down there and do the same thing down there. So here, I'm gonna try not to work anything into the hole. So I'm just gonna try and scrape away from the gasket, or the hole itself. Trying to work as much of it off to the side as possible. Now, you may get something down here. It's probably not the end of the world, but the idea is to try not to get anything down in there. You can be careful when you're down here with a razor blade. One, you don't cut yourself. Two, you don't cut wires or vacuum hoses, radiator hoses, things like that. You don't want to find out one of these split when you're cruising down the highway with your family in an SUV. All right, just a little bit left. I'm actually dragging the razor blade back and forth like this in between here, trying to get the rest of that out. All right, before I pull the towel out of there, we use a little shop air to knock off any excess. We're just going lightly. I'll go a little harder. Okay. Now we'll pull that out. Now, I don't like to use shop air since it's wide open. We're going to use a vacuum. So we don't blow anything down inside of it. All right, so the gasket surface is nice and cleaned off. So I think I see a little bit more of something right here in the corner that I want to try and work off right through here. All right, gasket surface is nice and cleaned off now. We're gonna get our new gasket. So this is a Felpro gasket. Picked these up at O'Reilly. Felpro is a great brand. Looking for my pocket knife. Yet I've got a really sharp razor blade right here. All right. So we'll just set the gasket right down on the surface, just like that. And the EGR valve, we got this all cleaned up. Just making sure there's no debris inside of there. I guess that's supposed to be like that. I don't know if it was actually carbon buildup on here or not. It's the way it's machined. Odd. All right, I think it went like this because the connector was pointing towards us when we took it off. And it also has a circular hole here and then the square hole or rectangular right there. So that matches up. So we've got that bolt tight. Before we close this up, I always like to double check things. So that was tight, that one's tight. Put a wrench on it and physically check it just for good measure. It ain't going nowhere. Okay. Now, exhaust parts, I always like to use an anti-seize. The reason I use an anti-seize, these were probably installed with anti-seize 17 years ago. They came right off. With anti-seize, you're going to guarantee they're going to come off the next time you're in here. You don't want to make the next mechanic's job hard. You never know. That next mechanic might be you again pulling it apart. So do yourself a favor. Get some anti-seize. I like the copper-based anti-seize. It's Loctite C5A is what it is. So it's copper-based. It's good to like 800-900 degrees. This stuff's gonna smoke a little bit when we first start up the engine. But that smoke will go away very quickly. So I'm fairly liberal with the Loctite. You don't want to get this down inside, obviously, in the exhaust stream. But I get a good coating, because you'll actually take this off 10, 15 years from now. And this stuff will actually be on there still underneath, kind of hardened up. But it'll be there. And I've taken stuff off 20 years later with tons of rust, and it just came right off real easy. A lot easier than it did when I was breaking this one free. So this stuff's great. All right, so the threads are coated up real good. And the stuff, anytime you work with it, it gets everywhere. So as soon as I get these threaded on, I'm going to clean up, because this stuff will spread and spread and spread. Okay, let you get down in there and look a little closer. I'm going to go ahead and thread these by hand, because I don't want to take it and snug one side up and have the EGR valve rocked to one side or another, because that gasket's fairly thick. So I'm just going to take it and spin it until it kind of becomes snug all by hand. And that's just me grabbing the end of the extension and giving it a physical twist. So I don't have a lot of torque on it, because it's slipping through my fingers as we speak. All right, we're gonna go ahead and snug this puppy down. I'm not huge on torque wrenches. You guys can comment all you want. This doesn't have a torsional load on it, so it's really not gonna come loose or rock its way loose. It could with vibrations, but it's just not really all that plausible. Will I torque my lug nuts? Oh yeah. And double check them after 50 miles. I will do that. But stuff like this, as long as you get it good and snug, it's not going to go anywhere. The important part is knowing when to stop so you don't break it. So if you're fairly new, I would suggest using a torque wrench if you don't know what you're doing there. So you can opt to clean up a little bit of excess of that anti-seize. I do sometimes I don't, but it's not really going to matter. You can see a little bit of moisture content in it right now. That's all going to boil out once we start the motor. It'll all boil off. It'll smoke quite a bit. But it'll stop pretty quickly, and it won't smoke ever again. All right, so the EGR valve's back on. Both of those bolts are tight, and we're just gonna go ahead and plug these plugs back in, and then we're off to the other side there. Okay, that's that one. This plug doesn't want to go on. There we go. All right, that's the front one. It's all buttoned up, good to go. We'll give it a leak check after we get the other side done. All right, we're back. So we're working on this back one now. So in order to get this one out, you've got to get this little piece off first. It's in your way. It's on that little tab right there. So I reached underneath it and grabbed on this little tab right there that I'm moving with my finger. You wedge something under there and squeeze that between it. And then try and get a better angle. Get something between it, and then you pull this piece off, right? So we got that out of the way. And then now there's 2 bolts. They're 10mm bolts that are retaining this. You can see my oil leak is pretty bad. Oh, there they are. There's 1 and 2. They're right next to each other at the very top of your screen, top center. So I'm gonna get those 2 off, and then I should be able to get the other 2 bolts off that's secured on there. All right, it's just easier to show you with this setup in here. So I've got my ratchet in here, and you can see my hand down there, and I'm working on that bolt, and then I've just got to get the one right next to it next. All right, now I'm working on the back one. Let's see. There's just a spot here that I'm able to focus on with my eyes, but not anywhere else. All right, so you see it back there, and I'm gonna get that bolt out, and then we'll take this bracket off so you can see the bracket's already getting pretty loose. I'm gonna have to get it with a ratchet. I'll probably get that off camera just because it's simpler with one hand. I don't have my helper. All right, so I've reached in there already and grabbed the bolt, and now I'm just gonna take that bracket off. Of course, it's loving to focus elsewhere. All right, so now there's the bracket. So pretty simple, just these 2 bolts that were holding it on. They're just 10mm nuts. And now we've got everything exposed to do this bolt here, and then there's 1 below it. It is nasty that I'm gonna have to spray off with a little more cleaner. Let's see if I can get you a good view of it. Yep, so it is right there at the bottom there. It's in the very middle of your screen, just below the studs. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that cleaned off, and then it'll be a little more apparent. And then we're gonna get them off and get this cover out. All right, I've got my ratchet in here. I did that off camera. I already broke it free off camera. But I've got a 6-inch 3/8 drive extension, and then I think that's a 2-inch. They may call it a 1-inch, but it's a little stubby one. I'll show you when I get it out of here. And then it's just a 3/8 ratchet. So pretty easy. And then I'm gonna get the bottom one broke free, and then we'll be home free. All right, on the bottom one, it is a pain to get in there. I don't know if you can see it very well. Let's see, okay. Let's see if we see it from that angle better. Yeah, so you've got this hard coolant line that is right there. That's a rubber one, that's a hard one going in to the motor there. It is a bear to get your extension between there or into here, and then get it on there true so you don't strip out your nut. You have to apply a bit of force down here on your 3/8 drive socket, but you don't want to ratchet, but you don't want to go too much that you bend that metal pipe there that my socket's up against. You don't want to deform that. So it could leak fluid. You could have some problems there. So we're not going to do that. I just went ahead and pushed just a smidge on it. I'm actually pushing more so on this one right here than I am the other one. So just wanted to show you that. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this bolt the rest of the way out, and then we'll pop this cap off. All right, so this is where I really needed a helper to hold the camera. I've got a piece of brass. We've got to get this thing turned so that I can grab it. So I can grab an edge. There's no edge to turn. So I got a piece of brass wedged in here from the other side, and then I'm just taking a hammer to it. I took these other connectors back off and tucked that harness down there below my arm just so I didn't hit it. Just got to be careful I don't strike this one too, obviously, but that's how I'm going to go ahead and get it to turn. All right, so I've hammered it and I've got it moving, and I've got a lip now. You can see that there. So I was able to shove a little pry bar. Let's see if it'll focus down right there against. So it goes right on top. That's the cylinder head that my, or the, yeah, that's the top of the cylinder head that my, making sure I'm on the right thing. Yeah, that is the top of the cylinder head. This is the valve cover, top of the cylinder head here, and I've just got my pry bar set down on it, and then I've shoved it as far as I can get it. The trouble is on this one, if you remember from the front, I had to rock it. I had to get this side, and then I had to get it from the bottom. All right, so what I've done now is tap it a little further and then wedge my pry bar in it again, and I think it looks to be pretty evenly coming apart now, so I'm hoping this next move will get it. I'm hoping I can either continue tapping it and rotating it. I'm bringing this top in this way right now. I can either keep going this way, or I can tap it back. But either way, as I tap it and then pry it, tap it, pry it, it's trying to recenter this back in the hole is what I'm hoping. All right, so now what I've done, let's get the piece of brass in here. Like this, you can see I got plenty of room up here for a hammer. Brought the brass in down here. Oh, there we go. So I brought the brass in and set it right there, and then up here, tapped it, obviously with the other hand, and I've brought it back again, and I'm still getting a bigger and bigger gap. So kind of rocking it back and forth is the idea. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take a pry bar and try and get it to move. All right, I've taken a pry bar and got in here. Got it. So that was it, guys and girls. I rocked it back and forth, and with a hammer, just tapping that ear back and forth, and that's the way we're gonna go ahead and get her out of there. Should come out by hand the rest of the way. Maybe. There's just no room to move your hands in here. I've got small hands, so this is not really the job for somebody with big hands. Hey, there we go. That's it. She's out. She's puking a lot more oil than the other side did. Did not expect that. I'll have to wipe that up. All right. Now let's go ahead and get this out of there. So that's the back cap. Just as I was thinking, that O-ring looks pretty flat. Pretty nasty. So there's your two studs. Oh, that's it. I'm gonna get it cleaned up. All right. Put her in the parts washer. All right, so I'm back. I got this cleaned up as I care to get it anyway. Show you the old one. You can hear it, the way it hits the plastic is a thud. It's hard. If I squeeze it too much more now, it's just gonna break. It actually broke when I peeled it off. So the new one, real easy to move, real pliable. No good. Anyway, I'm gonna put this on and lube it up, and then we're gonna put it back there. All right, so I didn't do it, and I kind of had a moment, but I went back and reviewed the video, and what I found, I couldn't figure out which way this was sitting. So you see these two little ears right here? They were clearly not in the video before. it was clearly like that. They weren't sticking out. So this is the bottom, that's the top. I've gone ahead and put oil, nice clean engine oil. If you didn't know, if you have a Honda Pilot 2005, that's what that's for. You put your oil there while you're changing your oil. At least I do. I've gone ahead and lubed up the hole. My flashlight died down there, so that's beautiful. And getting a flashlight and everything down in here and still being able to see is impossible. So that's what you're getting right now. I'm gonna grab my other flashlight. But I've lubed up the hole, lubed up my seal. Those little tabs go on the bottom. We're gonna put this back together. All right, she's going down in there. I've been bringing my hand in through here and bringing it down through there and around, and it is, you have to be a bit of a contortionist. See how my hand is? It's funny, I am trying to work off of the video so I can make it as realistic as possible. All right. All right. Ooh, baby. Well, I don't know if you heard that. It made a nice solid thud, like the O-ring seated right in. Now I just got to figure out how I'm going to hammer this in, because putting my socket over the top of those studs aren't really going to work this time. All right, so I went up an inch, or a size, to 1.25 inches. So I just grab my hand and come in through here. That flashlight is going to die. Come in through there, and then I'm going to bring something in from here. All right, hammer and a punch, win again. So I brought the hammer down where my arm is. I brought my other arm. I'm holding the hammer with this arm, really, and then bringing my other arm to hold the punch down from the bottom. So coming in right over the top here and then coming down. So then I take the socket, get the socket up against it, and I've already hammered it up against it. So it's flush now. Let's see if we can get it to zoom. There we go. So it's flush against it already. I've already done it, but just to show you what I did, I shoved the socket over it, brought the brass here, and then there's plenty of room now for a hammer to swing a hammer underneath here. So just tapped it right in, went straight up against it. So now I've got to go ahead and probably spin it a little bit and use my hammer and punch from the bottom, because I can already tell this looks like it's already too far down that way. So, all right, so I've got the punch in there, and I'll explain that here in a second again. All right, so as you can see, I'm off a bit, right? So it's got to come up. It's got to come up for it to align. So I'm going to use that punch again, my trick from earlier, and bring the punch in from the bottom and tap it that way. And then we're going to line it up and get that bolt in. All right, and I'm back. I've gone ahead and given it little taps. I mean, if you lubed it up right, I mean, it turned with just, I may have been able just to have grabbed it down here and twisted it on that little boss down there, but I don't know. It turned very easily is what I'm getting at. So I'm going to go ahead and put, already got the other bolt started. I'm going to go ahead and get the bottom bolt started, which is a lot of fun. I came in from the top here. Oh man, it's tough to show on camera with as tight as it is in here. There we go. It's maybe as close as I'm going to give you. So you can see where it's at there below, maybe. Goodness gracious. Aha! There we go. You can see it now. I've got it started. All right. I've gone ahead and got those bolts snug down. And again, there's no torsional loads on them, so I've gone ahead and just get them as snug as possible. So that one and that one there, they are tight. Again, the O-ring is really what's doing the job. The bolts are just there, and they don't have any torsional loads. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and put the bracket on. So the bracket's gonna go on this way. So it sits just like that. So we're gonna bring it in. Bring it in from the top. And then it's got to go in these two holes that are on the bracket. The bottom two, I don't think they had anything on them. No, they didn't have anything on them. They were just sitting there. I don't know what they're there for. They're probably tool holes for when they have this in the fixture when they make it. So, all right. So now, and then I just have the two 10mm bolts to put on there. And I'll do that off camera, or I'll show you how I got everything in there. But really get the nut on. There's no easy way. One way you can do, I'm just going to put it on with my finger. One way you can do to make it easier on yourself if you're not familiar with doing this kind of stuff all the time, is you can take a little bit of masking tape and take it and put it, where'd my socket go? Put it down inside of your socket. So you'd actually take it and shove it down inside of there. Enough to where it sticks out and grabs your nut. So then you would take this on the end of the extension and then kind of fish it in and then get it threaded as you spin it. So that's one way to do it. Or you can reach down here and put them in and hopefully not drop them, because it'd be fun to find them. So I'm getting them on, and I'm going to go ahead and get them snugged up and show you how I did that. So, all right. Once you got them threaded on there, this is where I came through with that there. My flashlight died on me, so I'm trying to work with what I got. I got to get this project done. All right, there we go. Now you can see, so I got that one done, and then I'll go to the other one and snug that one up. I might have to get this one off camera. I kind of have to get my head down low from the side to get to it. But, oh, there we go. I got it. So I'll snug that one up. Again, there's not exhaust or anything like that, so I'm not going to put any anti-seize on it or anything like that. Just snug it up. You're good to go. All right, so that's snug, and then we're going to take this little thing and push it back on there until it pops and it's snug. And then I'm going to go ahead and start closing the rest of this stuff up. I went ahead and plugged these back in. Make sure you don't forget to do that. So the rest of it, I'll show you how to get the snorkel back on here. All right, I didn't show this because there's probably a million videos on how to do it, but that bolt right there. And then there's a little clamp right here. And so that's got to go on. Put this down in here. Like I said, this has to be disconnected at the beginning of the video. Popped off of there. But you can put all this back together. Now, oh goodness, this silly thing didn't want to go back on there. There we go. All right, and then there's 4 bolts, and that's it. Pretty simple. All right, thanks for watching. We're gonna give it a leak check before we end the video, though. All right, we got it running. So I'm gonna check these cam seals out, make sure they're not leaking any. Get my mirror back here in a second. Once this EGR gets a little warm, that stuff's gonna start smoking a little bit, but like I said, that's no big deal. I don't see any leaks. I'll check the other side. We are good to go. Give the back side a look-see here in a minute after I get off camera. Thanks for watching.